It is now easy for us to purchase clothing in today's e-commerce world. New seasonal items and discounts catch our eyes first, encouraging impulse buying. Eventually, tons of clothes are left in our closets and end up as waste. In response to these never-ending fast fashion trends, concerns about the waste produced by garment manufacturers and customers has risen. The clothing industry has also come into focus in a world seeking more sustainability. Welcome to this episode. Today, we're exploring the fascinating world of clothing production and investigating how it can influence sustainability. But before we go into the details, let's take a look at some interesting background about the fashion industry.
The fashion industry's rapid growth in the 21st century and the rise of fast fashion have resulted in increased waste. According to reports from the United Nations, producing a single pair of denim jeans requires 10,000 litres of water, equivalent to one person's 10-year water consumption. Shockingly, 85% of textiles end up in landfills or are incinerated despite their potential for reuse. The fashion industry contributes 10% of global carbon emissions, surpassing international flights and maritime shipping combined. If unsustainable practices persist, fashion's greenhouse gas emissions will surge by over 50% by 2030. According to a Hong Kong government survey, we create an estimated 202 tonnes of clothing waste daily only in Hong Kong.
As consumers, we may think about simply buying fewer clothes as a way to protect the environment. But there's another important perspective to consider. How can we protect the clothing we already own in order to reduce waste? And how can we embrace reuse and recycling when our clothes wear out? On the other side of the spectrum, how can garment manufacturers fulfill their corporate social responsibility for sustainable production? Now, let's listen to what our students say.
As someone who cares about the environment, I believe in making the most of my clothes instead of throwing them away too soon.
I enjoy being creative by mixing and matching my outfits with different accessories to create new styles.
Taking good care of my clothes is important to me, so I use smart washing techniques and store them responsibly. By doing this, I can help reduce waste and adopt a more sustainable fashion approach. It's my way of making a positive impact and embracing a more eco-friendly lifestyle.
But sustainability in the fashion industry doesn't solely rely on consumers. Garment manufacturers, R&D teams, and fashion designers all play crucial roles in fulfilling their corporate social responsibility. In 2015, the United Nations adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development with 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, which can serve as important guidelines for clothing manufacturers. These SDGs provide a comprehensive framework for sustainable development, encompassing various social, environmental, and economic aspects.
All the SDGs have its own different relationship with clothing. For example, number 12, I think, is one of the most relatable because it's about overproduction and about consumption. So as a brand owner, we have to really look into our stock and really see what kind of clothing that the market wants, and then we produce, and not about fast fashion overproducing, and then about wastage. So I think number 12 is actually one of the most relevant. The other one is more on not the brand level, but more on the processing level, on the climate action, number 13, because basically all the process in the fashion industry, it's on water, it's on carbon emission. So I think SDG goals actually is very relatable. For the other thing that we look into is actually number 3, it's about on the health and safety. Because as a brand owner, what you produce is you wear it, so you have to make sure the toxic chemicals are not there and to ensure health for our consumers. I think for the SDG goals, as a brand owner, as fashion industry, we can contribute in different ways. It's how a brand or a factory, what they choose to believe in, and then what kind of priority they're taking. So this is a very good benchmark for brand owners to look at finding the right partners to work with throughout the supply chain.
In order to embrace clothing sustainability, it's essential to prioritize 3 key aspects. First, we must carefully consider the sourcing of raw materials. Second, we need to address the critical issue of wastewater management. And finally, we must actively explore the transformative potential of recycling and upcycling methods. Today, we are delighted to have key stakeholders join us to share their perspectives and suggestions for adopting sustainable approaches that benefit both the environment and society.
Our main core line, it's called Tencel Modell. We use this material, it's very interesting. It's actually from beech wood from Austria. So it's actually from a piece of wood, and then they do it to pulp, and then they will have different chemicals, and they will become fiber. From fiber, and then it will become a fabric, and fabric to clothing. What amazing about it is, actually I'm wearing it today. It's biodegradable if you put it in the soil for 4 months. Spinning process, even the forestation, is FSC certified. And also the whole process, all the solvent, 99% is actually reusable. People will think, oh, okay, it's just Modell. It's not. We actually apply Tencel Modell. So this company is looking into a lot of different sustainability angles to how to improve the materials. So this is one of our main collection. The other is about cotton. So everyone will think about, oh, cotton is such a waste of water. But we actually choose Cotton USA. Like how they look into things is actually from agriculture side. So the agriculture, they will have a technology. They will know which patch of land need water. So it's not about just over giving water, over consumption of water for the crops. They actually, I think, save about 79% of water and even carbon emissions. So they look into these, how do we give back to the environment as well? So these two are our main lines. And then definitely cotton doesn't have any microplastics, which is really good for the ocean. And the other one for our thermal wear, it's about wool. Wool is biodegradable, and also it's all natural fiber. So I think nowadays when we look into what kind of clothing we produce, we will look into the raw material. So the raw material that we choose is actually affecting the environment as well. These 3 are the main lines that we look into. When you think about it, it's not only about raw material, it's about how you make the clothing to become more durable. For example, this clothing that I'm wearing, it's been 5 years. So why we're getting Modell, why we are choosing Modell, is because of the color retention and also the very little chances for it to have peeling. It's about raw material plus durability, as well as how do you protect your clothing so that they can live longer.
According to WWF Hong Kong research in 2021, more than 80% of the brands surveyed either do not offer clothing made from sustainable materials, or they only offer a limited range. It is therefore difficult to trace the material source of many clothing items, which is a crucial step in ensuring their sustainability.
In 2019, we did a pilot project with Textile Genesis, WWF, Lansing. These 3 companies, they actually have a platform through Textile Genesis. We can actually trace from raw material to the end product. We had about 25,000 SKUs that went through the platform. So as a consumer, when you download the app, you actually scan the product and they can see the whole traceability. Why it is important is because there are a lot of want-to-be materials. So from this traceability app, you can definitely know that like the product is actually from Lansing, tensile model that they are using instead of just any model. So it's about the trust as well for the brand and the consumer. And as a brand, you know that what you're investing in is what you're getting. In Hong Kong, it's not that popular right now. In the States and Europe, traceability is getting to become more popular. And that's why we are doing different educations and talks to tell people how important to know about your raw material and process. And what you choose to buy is actually affecting the environment and also people as well. Normally when people talk about traceability, it's really on the brand, how they talk to the customer. Maybe it's just to tell you that where the raw material is from, what kind of manufacturing, what kind of factory they are using. But from this technology, it's called textile genesis, so they use blockchain. From the raw material, they will issue a certain amount of fiber coins. So they already calculated how much of raw material they need to use. So each process from raw material to spinning to fabrication, there are different wastage, so they will calculate within. So throughout the chain, they use this fiber coin to chain up the whole supply chain. When you go to the brand owner and the consumer, they actually look at the fiber coin and they will see, oh, it's actually legit. It makes sense to use this fiber coin from the raw material to the brand owner. During that process, if that so happened that factory use something else, not that raw material, they actually don't let you to put in the system because they have an alert system. They will say, oh, this kind of garment, you should use more material, not that little. So they will actually stop the transaction. So this is an ensuring for the brand as well as consumer. So I think the whole environment, the buying behavior, consumer behavior is slowly changing. But as a consumer and brand owner, they can look into textile genesis. Yeah.
One of the big challenges for the textile apparel fashion industry is that we are quite a water-intensive industry. We use it for dyeing, we use it for treatment of the materials. So we create a lot of wastewater. It's energy-intensive. It's also chemistry-intensive. So in our research, some of the things that we've done is we have developed technologies for waterless dyeing. We have looked at the ways in which we can treat wastewater and recycle water in the manufacturing process. In the post-consumer area, we have developed materials that are self-cleaning, materials that are antimicrobial, antibacterial, so you don't have to wash it as frequently, and you don't have to take care of it as frequently as you have to.
In terms of water usage, zero. Normally in traditional recycling processes, you would have to wash, and we don't sanitize by washing, so we don't use any water. From the collected garments or items to the end product, we don't use any water. For our Novatex factory in Zhuhai, we have to adhere and comply with the mainland regulations. They have very strict policies about water usage, disposal of used water in our dyeing process, etc. And we use steam, but we don't emit any harmful chemicals into the air in our yarn spinning process, also in Zhuhai. It's a little bit tougher because we're looking at conventional ways of yarn spinning and manufacturing, but we have to be very, very compliant with the local requirements and policies. And of course, we have worked in the past with different vendors and companies to look at better ways of treating our wastewater before we release it back into the community. We've experimented with reverse osmosis and things like that. So we are always looking for ways to minimize our footprint or our impact on the environment.
There are actually different ways of treating the water. I went to our factory in Shanghai. They actually do a really good filtering system. So they took us to the filtering system. They filtered the water. It's actually cleaner than what they have received. And they were having fishes in the clean water as well. So I think, yes, it's polluting, but at the same time, we can do something else. We can have a better filter system to have a cleaner water. And now now the technology is advancing. There are different ways of waterless to dye fabrics. I recently heard there are like bacteria to dye fabric as well, or even natural resources to dye. So again, about choices of a brand, what you choose, who you choose to partner with.
And the latest project under the Novatex umbrella is the Billy system, which is located right here in Hong Kong in Tai Po. That is most interesting, exciting, innovative recent development, and it's a textile upcycling system that we developed together with Hong Kong RITA, the Hong Kong Research Institute of Textile and Apparel. Textile upcycling is nothing new. We have been doing it at Novatex in Zhuhai for many, many years, and generally we do mechanical recycling. In the past, basically what we would do is take unsold inventory, dead stock, misdyed lots, and put them all together, chop them up, re-dye them into a much darker color, and spin the fiber into new yarn. That's the most conventional way of textile recycling or yarn recycling. The Billy system is different in the sense that it is a patented system. The way we put the steps together, that is patented. We don't use any water in the process, and we don't emit any harmful chemicals in the process as well. So that's why the system itself is new. I don't believe that there is another system like this currently in the world, and that's why we have been able to apply for the patent. The Billy system is unique because we don't produce any harmful emissions. We sanitize what we collect using ozone in the first step. Ozone is created right on site with our own equipment. And then when the sanitization is done, the ozone is then back into the air. There are 2 more steps of sanitization, and we use UV rays. There are no other chemicals used and no harmful emissions.
HK RITA has 3 major research domains. We research around themes around sustainability, Industry 4.0, and something we call social good. How can we use what we develop for the greater good of society? We have finished over 200 research projects over the last couple of years, of which about 60 to 70 are in the sustainability domain. But recently, we've had a couple of success in several of our projects. The Green Machine, which is a hydrothermal system that separates blended yarns at an industrial scale, that won several global awards. Then we have our garment shop, which is a retail experiment in Hong Kong that has also won not only invention awards but also design awards. And then finally, most recently, our carbon dioxide absorbing material also won several international awards. All 3 of the projects that I talked about are already either in use or have been scaled up overseas. For example, the garment shop, there's a new store opened in Europe that is based on our technology. The Green Machine is now used at industrial scale overseas. The carbon dioxide absorbing material is being used in a uniform in a restaurant overseas as well.
We worked with an artist called Roland, so he's a resin artist. So what we did, it's about keeping the memory and upcycling an old piece of clothing. So what you have to do is just bring your old piece of clothing, you cut a piece, and then we'll give you a pack. And then this pack contains resin inside. So when you do it, it's basically you put the resin with the clothing and wait for 8 hours. And you can just shape it into whatever shape and form it is. It can become a vase. And recently I did a workshop, it became a bird cage or even just a key holder. So these things we are saying, sustainability is not just about the environment, it's really about the relationship as well. So we are keeping the memory as well as upcycling.
I'm sure you now have a better understanding of the efforts the clothing industry has made to achieve sustainability. Now, let's explore the challenges this industry faces and discuss strategies for promoting sustainability.
We have faced a lot of challenges, with regard to the Billy system from day one. Finding the space for it, developing the system itself, getting customers, finding people who would take our output. So it's an ongoing process of meeting challenges and addressing them and attacking them. But the system was designed, and then we had to find a place to house it. We very fortunately found this location in Tai Po. We have 3 lines there. Under ideal situations, we can process 3 tons of textile waste a day. And I mentioned ideal circumstances. So to date, we have had very, very few instances of working under those ideal circumstances, because the other thing that we face in terms of difficulties and challenges is collection of enough quantity of the same kind of materials for upcycling. If you're looking at collecting materials from like a factory, for instance, that would be easier. But if you're collecting from communities, you're getting old clothes, different colors, different materials, then we have to sort. That is another challenge. Ideal circumstances, ideal situations don't often occur. That is something that we've had to face, and that is a reason why we've not been able to reach our originally intended goals yet. Hopefully we will be able to as we move down the road.
So I think this is a challenge to change the perception of our brand. We've been around for so long, and most people think that we just have thermalware, and they don't know that how much we put into the environment-friendly thinking in our DNA. And hence, that's why with this challenge, we start young. So we start to do cotton workshop. For example, this month we have this pop-up. It's really to educate people, to tell people how important it is to know the raw material, and hopefully from there they will really inspire them to buy less, buy better. So I think it's a challenge as well as there is opportunity there. It's about the choices we make as a brand and how we really be transparent to our consumers.
At HK Retail, we really believe that sustainability is a multidiscipline challenge. We not only have to solve the science problem, we also have to solve the business problem as well as the supply chain problem. So this actually is one of the key advantages of Hong Kong, because we are such a small place, and yet we have all the necessary skills and talents concentrated in one place, and we are better at this than most people. The other challenge is innovation and creativity. We need new solutions and new ways to solve old problems. And this is where we can actually create a lot more value. When we think about future opportunities for businesses, there are 2 sides to the sustainability challenge. One is what we call the less bad, and one is the more good. The less bad is, what are we going to do to mitigate all the issues that exist already in the marketplace? So how do we recycle more efficiently? How do we develop products that are easy to recycle? And how do we use different ways to conduct our business? The more good is, we think, is a more disruptive way of thinking about sustainability. What are some completely new business models that we can use? What are some completely new materials that are revolutionary, that are carbon neutral or carbon negative? Do our businesses completely different, make money in a completely different way? So I think all of these are opportunities for Hong Kong.
For me, sustainability in clothing, it's all about the whole process. It's from the raw material, the process of making the clothing, and how durable it is. As a brand owner, how you choose your raw material, whether it's good for the environment, and as well as the factory, who you choose. Are they good to their factory workers? This is very important because society, community is part of sustainability as well. The other thing, it's about how you sell your clothing. How do you educate the consumers what kind of products they are buying, to tell them the whole process, and then afterwards upcycling and how to protect the clothing. So I think as a sustainable fashion brand, it's about the whole life cycle of a clothing. So each step of the way we will have to think and how we can improve for our customer.
So what does a new sustainable consumption lifestyle look like? It could be that we buy for durability, we buy for versatility, we buy secondhand, or also we do garment swaps and exchanges with our friends.
I think everyone can do a lot, should do much more to contribute to sustainability. We have limited resources, limited space, limited clean water. If we continue to live the way we have been living in the past decades, not really being very mindful of this limited nature of our resources. And we continue to not really think about how we're damaging the environment we're living in. It will only get worse, obviously, and the issues may not affect us in our lifetime, but it will definitely affect the generations to come. And I think we owe it to them, not leave a worse place for them. If we buy fewer clothes, for instance, we're sending fewer items to the landfill.
This is a great chance for us to pause and take a break from fast fashion culture. Let's reconsider how much we truly need to buy new clothes rather than focusing on our immediate wants. It's important we don't rely solely on the manufacturers. Whenever we feel tempted to make impulsive purchases, let's also think about the amount of waste we can reduce for the sake of our planet and for more sustainable living. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.